Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So it is the start of a new month, actually a little bit late this month. DappRadar has been redoing its figures, so I was a bit delayed getting the data from DappRadar, but we have now our regular roundup of what's been happening in terms of the most popular blockchain games. This is looking at on-chain activity, so some games have a lot of on-chain activity, some games not so much. But this is the data we've got from DappRadar, and a few interesting trends actually this month. So this is sort of the headline graph, looking at the biggest games. So I've called this the most popular games. There's various other graphs we can look at. And as sort of the big trend of the year, so this is for the first half of 2024, H1 2024, and we can see Pixels has had this big rise. And then in June, Pixels had this big fall. So Pixels actually peaked over 1 million daily active unique wallets in May. Came back down from there, went back up to just under 1 million, and then it launched its chapter 2. So that was quite a big change in terms of how you got rewarded in the Pixel tokens, other sort of changes in the sort of gameplay as well. And we can see here a massive drop off, and the main reason, which is sort of the Pixels team has officially said that, the main reason was they broke sort of the bot system. So with any sort of on-chain game, particularly one with a sort of token that you can extract as a reward, there tends to be bots, or there are bots in there. We just don't know the sort of level of bots. Tends to be the more successful the game, the higher the level of bots. So we can sort of see here, if we assume that this drop is the bots, maybe some players in there as well, but it was like 2/3. So it went from about 900,000 daily active unique wallets down to about 250,000. It's sort of come back up again. So roughly, I think we can say 2/3 of the active wallets for Pixels were bots. And it may be bots are sort of working out, or being reset to do these new tasks. Obviously, you sort of have to train bots in what to do. They don't just go off; they're not AI bots who know what they're doing. But anyway, so Pixels has recovered a little bit, over 400,000 now. I guess that is the big sort of takeaway, I suppose. Pixels had a lot of bots, and most game developers do want to get rid of bots. So I did a video about sort of looking at some of the other games over the years that have sort of had this sort of similar big drop off in activity. But generally, most games want to, or at least they want to make sure the rewards go to real players, not bots. So often they do these big resets and thinking about how the rewards are given out to players. I guess the one big thing to notice here is even when Pixels went down to 250,000 daily active unique wallets, it was still, sort of twice as big as the next biggest game. I will also say at this point, if you go to DappRadar and look, there are a bunch of other sort of games or game platforms or stuff in there, and I normally look at them. Generally I don't think they're really games, and some of them are just sort of people coming in and collecting tokens by just pressing on a button. So you have to be a little bit careful about what the actual on-chain activity is. So these are all the games that I'm choosing here to show in these graphs are proper, what I consider proper games, and have sort of proper gameplay in there, not just sort of simple sort of hyper casual sort of collecting token type stuff. So if that confuses you when you go to DappRadar and look at the other games on there, that's the reason. One interesting thing here is previously in the other months I've sort of had, this is Pixels and everything else is down here. So there are still some everything else down here which we'll look at in more detail. But actually sort of from May onwards, but certainly towards the end of June, Boomland started to get quite a bit of activity. So Boomland isn't a game, a single game. It is a sort of ecosystem of games, but it has a main game that is launched called Hunters on Chain, which is running on the immutable ZK EVM chain, and that sort of is about 2 weeks into a month-long Plater airdrop. So in a sense, it is a campaign. So we probably expect this to continue for a month or so, or rise for a month and then sort of drop off. Actually, Pixels had a big Plater airdrop campaign, along this sort of point here. Actually, the token went live in mid-February. We can sort of see a big jump when the token goes live. So obviously, giving out sort of tokens or people playing in hope of getting tokens, is a sort of a marketing thing we expect blockchain games to do. So that's what's going on with Boomland, and I've actually sort of pointed out Boomland here. But let's get rid of Pixels and have a look in a bit more detail. So this is looking at this sort of breaking up this graph. So obviously this one here, it goes up to 1 million. That's the vertical scale here, daily active unique wallets. Here we're down to 150,000. So actually Boomland is just over that now. As I say, Boomland is at the moment 3 games. The Hunters game is probably doing about a third of this, we think. So they're sort of experimenting with sort of bringing people from their Web 2 games into Web 3. So this is not, let's say, one pure game. But we can sort of see it started in May, and it's been over 100,000 on a daily basis. Quite how many of these are being retained? I think most of these are sort of coming in and not coming back in again because they're experimenting with UA, and that would have generally a very low UA's sort of marketing, user acquisition. So that would generally, you'd have a lot of people sort of clicking through and then never coming back in. So they're trying to sort of work out a way of building an audience. But Boomland is now, as a sort of ecosystem, is now sort of the second biggest. We'll see how long that lasts. As I say, they're in this play to airdrop thing at the moment. And Boomland, Hunters as a game, has doing about 50,000 daily active unique wallets, I think. 50,000 in total, I think, up to this point. So that's what's going with Boomland. We'll keep an eye on that into July. Catizen is a game on the TON blockchain. So the TON blockchain is sort of integrated with the Telegram messaging system. There's quite a lot of games going on Telegram. DappRadar doesn't seem to be covering them extensively. But Catizen is there. Now these are sort of tap to earn is what people call them. So in some ways this is not really a proper game. But in other ways it is interesting to see, what a popular game on TON is looking like in terms of daily active unique wallets. And it's actually not looking that big. So I think, I can't remember some of these games. I'm certainly Hamsters Combat is saying hundreds of millions of players. But when we actually look at the daily active unique wallets, much smaller numbers. So it wouldn't even be. This is the third biggest blockchain game at the moment, even though it's on Telegram, which has 500 million users. So if we talk about sort of bots in on Pixels, then bots on Telegram is even worse. You wouldn't be surprised maybe if some of these games have 90% bots or 99% bots, just because just the way Telegram's set up. So anyway, Catizen's there. So it's gone from 50,000 to 100,000. We'll see sort of where it ends up. The other problem with these sort of tap to earn games is they tend to be very viral and they sort of have a big spark, a big sort of boom, and then it just sort of comes down again to zero. Or that's sort of what I would maybe expect. 2 games we've covered. They've been going for Alien Worlds have been going for years, and Nine Chronicles for actually years as well. So we can see Alien Worlds actually growing. So over sort of 80,000, and Alien Worlds as well. Alien Worlds has grown more because it's coming from a lower base in the start of January. But both those games are growing. Not growing a lot. It's not massive growth. It's not doubling their audience. And again, with these sort of games, how many bots are in there? Not quite sure. Alien Worlds is certainly a game that could be easily sort of botted. Nine Chronicles less so, but I think you can pretty much bot it as well. So we have to be a little bit careful. But seeing some sort of level of growth anyway. So that's what's going on there. 2 more graphs to look at. So these are what are called less popular blockchain games. So these are sort of ones that we cover every month, and they have been very popular, but now dropping off now. So on the upside, Axie Infinity, as we can see here, was under sort of getting down to 15,000, 12,000 even, and then they've Sky Mavis has done a sort of a bit of a play to airdrop campaign. Well, it's actually a play to earn campaign where if you play the game and click on some other things, you can earn some of the AXS token. So that's really been quite strong for them. They've also had this earn campaign with Coinbase. So they're up to over 50,000 daily active unique wallets now. I mean, obviously miles off the million that they peaked at back in 2021, but they have actually sort of doubled, even tripled maybe their audience. I guess with all these sort of things, will people continue to play it when they're not being given free money? We will wait and see on that one. Upland has sort of just continued along. It's sort of general sort of 20,000 daily active unique wallets. Seems to have, again, don't know how many bots are in there. It's probably not a game that's easy to bot, and it's hard to extract value, but it seems to have a very seemed to have a very consistent audience, but it's actually down quite a lot from what it was last year. So we're not quite sure where that one's going to go. And Splinterlands is sort of going through a very weird phase. So it's dropping a lot. So it's sort of under 10,000 daily active unique wallets, but getting these very big spikes, which generally are at the end of these tournament campaigns that it does, and it's kind of weird that it's its general audience is dropping really quite low on a daily basis. So people who are just playing the game on a daily basis, but getting these massive reward spikes, which to me seems to suggest bots. So, I mean, there is a natural reason why you might get some of these spikes, and Splinterlands has always had this because of the way that the reward system works. But to get these sort of, you're going from about 20,000, under 20,000 up to over 100,000 in, this is basically just for a day. To me, that seems to suggest sort of bots coming in now. I don't think that would be, this is not behaviour we would sort of see from a human point of view. So Splinterlands continuing to fall. So it started off the year, 40,000 and now down. So not so good for Splinterlands, I guess. But a bit more positive. These are some newly launched blockchain games, fairly new at least, and they're not really big in terms of on-chain activity or on-chain wallets. So 30,000, 10,000 daily active unique wallets. But these are sort of proper games and sort of interesting from that point of view. So Nightcrows in yellow here. Not doing massive numbers. It's actually a PC and mobile MMO RPG from WeMix. WeMade is the Korean publisher, and WeMix is their blockchain platform. So it's quite hard to actually get to the blockchain bit of it. Again, we have these spikes coming on. I think this is when they have this complicated system when you can mint out the Crow token, which is their cryptocurrency, and the price has to be at a certain level before you can mint it out. So you tend to get these spikes. I think that's what's being shown up here. Whereas sort of underlying, you have the sort of basically people playing, sort of interacting with the blockchain in terms of NFTs and other tokens. So that's quite low. There's about 300 to 400,000 people playing the game every day, not on the blockchain, just generally playing the game. That's been dropping off a little bit. So the blockchain element of this is pretty small, a few percentage in general of the overall sort of player base. Not even that actually. So interesting from that point of view. I guess the argument would be if you have a lot of players. I mean, as players get further into the game, you can access more blockchain. I think you have to get to level 35 before you can start to do that. So maybe over time we'll see it grow, and it has sort of grown from a very small base in April, but we're not seeing very strong growth there. So keep an eye on that. I guess Guild of Guardians is a game that's now available through the app stores, launched on the 15th of May. So we see a nice pick up here. Again, it's sort of a game where you don't need to play with the blockchain. So I think they've done over 500,000 downloads. It was well over 500,000 downloads, 620,000 downloads I think was the number they gave. Mainly downloads on Google Play, and you can just access and play the game without any blockchain. You can create NFT characters using in-app purchase. You can also do stuff, using sort of web interfaces with your NFTs as well. So again, a small number, 15,000, dropped off a little bit, but 15,000 daily active unique wallets on that game. We'll see sort of where it ends up. It's not a game where you are necessarily doing interacting with the blockchain sort of every time you play the game. There's very sort of specific things you're doing in terms of trading and leveling up and sort of creating characters or burning characters to get resources and stuff. So we'll sort of see how that plays out over time. And interestingly, Wild Forest, so this is on the Ronin blockchain. This is just launched fairly recently. Has NFT characters and its tokens going live. So it's on a play to airdrop sort of mission at the moment, and very strong growth. I mean, again, small, but it's slightly higher than Guild of Guardians at the moment. And then Rumble Racing Star, which is on the Arbitron blockchain, I think, from D Labs, a South Korean company, and it's a sort of a Mario Kart style racing game. So they're sort of in their early stages of their launch. It's a PC mobile game, and they're actually slightly higher, 20,000. So these are ones to be sort of keep an eye on. Interestingly, all of these games are available through the app stores. Some of them are also available on PC as well. So these are they're not sort of fully on-chain games by any means. They're sort of games that are trying to use app stores to get sort of a wide audience, and then you have blockchain in there. So those are, I guess, a slightly sort of longer term sort of play where you're hoping to get people engaged in the game and over time sort of educate them about blockchain and see the percentage of people who are using blockchain as your audience increase. But keep an eye. I'd definitely be keeping an eye on these ones, and it's all good to see that they're sort of at least getting over the first 10,000 daily active unique wallets, which not all games manage to sustain. So that's what's going on in the first half of 2024. Thanks for watching the video, and see you again soon.